wellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, featuring your hosts Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today we are diving into my birth story of my fourth child. But before we do dive deeply into that, and I hope I can, really bring myself there. I'm kind of in that fog bubble at the moment where you can't quite make sense of what's going on in your head or your body. I do just want to remind you to jump on to nourishingthemother.com.au and sign up to join our tribe, where you will get a weekly email newsletter from us where we detail and give you links and blurbs for everything we've posted, blogged about, and you can pick and choose what you would like to dive deeper into. Occasionally we'll send you a second email where we've had a personal story inside Awakening, something we'd share with each other, and we think that it's worth sharing with you guys as well. So if you'd like to dive a little bit deeper with us, then nourishingthemother.com.au, join our tribe.
So this week... First of all, last week, for anybody who listened to the podcast last week, and we've had so many comments from people who are just...
I've just gone like MIA.
But just, hanging on your every word and kind of your own processing around how it felt to be in that place of waiting.
God,
to the point at which you were well and truly over it. And as you said, you were battling with yourself every hour.
Yeah, seriously.
So last week's podcast, if you haven't heard it, it's worth going back to get the context for this week's podcast and what you were able to move through to get to where you have, got to have the birth that you have.
And I'm so, as I said to you the other day, Bridge, I'm so glad that I have a record of that. And because I'd done some journaling as well, so before this podcast goes live, I'll put up a blog post about what I think actually was the processing that got me into labour. I'm sure it's a culmination of many things, but this particular moment I think was quite profound that I journaled about. And I'm so glad I journaled that week, both in podcast form, in just personal journaling, because as soon, like the moment she was born, it was like, poof.
Gone.
Like completely disappeared.
That's the case, because birth is so transformative, and so because of that, you're not the person you were before you birthed.
I couldn't even connect to it. Like I was literally sitting in the bath with her afterwards going, oh, that week was fine. What was I so worried about? And I'm in my head going, are you serious? Because I can remember saying to myself, this is full on like Jedi mind training, because this battle is so intense in my body and my head every single day. And I think, I'd totally forgotten that. If I did go through it with my others, I'd completely forgotten it. Yeah. And two, what a fantastic just reminder to be able to look back on for when I meet women there in the future. Because we can so easily, like all of my beautiful friends around me going, she's going to come, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm going, yeah. And meanwhile, I'm here.
And it's so funny, isn't it? Because it's that whole rose-coloured glasses thing, right? So you forget the parts you don't feel you need anymore and remember the good bits. And those perhaps are some of those things we forget, of that intense. And, I certainly found myself there, and part of it I think was because with being pregnant with Sylvie and almost wanting to, I was saying to you, I don't feel ready. I was so conflicted. I was just had all this stuff coming up, and I almost didn't honour the fact that was a normal part of the end of pregnancy.
I'm so glad you brought that up, actually, because having gone through this as well, I now really see that too. Because how much do we not honour it as a part of the process?
And I think it's a huge part. I think we really need to have reference for it and softness for ourselves in that space. Beyond the well-meaning words of others, because I think that what I love about the podcasts that you've done in the last couple of weeks is they've really blown open the truth of what the psyche can do in those days of waiting, in those weeks of waiting, which not a lot of people talk about. And what you've given our listeners is such a beautiful, heart-wrenching, frustrating, wonderful insight into what that looks like.
Thanks, Bridge. I really appreciate it.
I kind of wish I had that before I had Sylvie.
I wish I had been able to give it to you, but I don't honestly think I was remotely in touch with it then, though, either.
Yeah.
because it just magically has eradicated itself from my being the moment of birth.
In fact, we'll get to the birth in a minute. And in fact, you wouldn't. This is the first time I'm hearing the birth story too, because Jules wouldn't tell me.
I said no, it can't be rehearsed when we do it.
but you know, knowing what you've gone through to get here, there's no doubt that there's some divine order at play for you having had to experience this surprise baby number 4 and the pregnancy and birth that you've had, because
there's some profound shit there I haven't even uncovered.
But the thing is, the first thing I thought when I saw the photos was, this is just making you a better doula. This is just making you more and more with woman than you already are. And I love that, like, because it's gritty, it's juicy, it's profound, it's hard, it's challenging, it's amazing. It's all of the spectrum of what it means to be a woman and a mother, and to really throw yourself in the deep end of it. So please take us to you know, first of all, I got a text message from Jules on, it would have been Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably all part of it, and I do want to put up the blog post that'll go more deeply into this pre-labour aspect of it. But essentially what had happened in that probably 4 days leading up to my birth was a labour that started and stopped and started and stopped and started and stopped, and was doing my fucking head in like nobody's business. And I've had clients previously who've been there as well, and I've, you know, had all of the, you know, you could do this and you can do that, and if it's not going to kick in, then you let it go, and blah, blah, blah. So in my head, I'm being my own doula, and I'm going, I know this is on the range of normal. I know this is pre-labour, but fucking come on. Like, bullshit. This is absolute rubbish. And it just was compounding and layering more and more of those feelings of, this is never going to happen. I'm not doing this. I can't do this. Like, just every time was another layer of that. And then the Saturday, it kind of didn't go away. It stayed all day and was kind of kept going at, you know, sort of roughly 10-minute intervals. And because my third birth had been so fast and so effortless, it was like this. So the sensations of her labour pains, if you want to call them that, or surges, was very, you know, breathable, melodic. What do you say? What's the word?
Melodic. Yeah, that
melodic.
Sounds good.
Let's just go with rhythmic. Like, they were something you could absolutely comfortably breathe through. They had almost like a pre-orgasmic kind of rhythm to them, like enjoyable. I was happily talking, still playing with my kids, blah, blah, blah. So that was my third experience. And what I had walked away from that birth with was, wow, I've really transformed the way that I see labour and birth, and so therefore this is the experience I have. What I realise is, probably not so enlightened, probably it was just a third birth, which can be, third babies can do some pretty crazy stuff in their births. It's just this phenomenon of third babies. So knowing that, we were anticipating, so if we get those just light rhythmic contractions, our plan was go to the hospital, dump our bags in a room and leave the hospital and go do whatever we wanted to do. So at least we were nearby the space that we were birthing in. So I called my team in. I had people covering my husband and I for coaching for our kids' basketball teams and taking our kids to and from basketball. I had my mum here looking after the kids and doing, you know, dinner and whatever. I had Bree, my doula and birth photographer, so I orchestrated everything, and we were up at the hospital. And it was the strangest experience walking into the, because I've never done that. I've never walked into a hospital to give birth. And it was daylight and it was busy, and they were so busy, they didn't have a spare room, not even an observation room.
Oh my gosh.
That's how busy they were.
And what was coming up for you then?
I was really adrenalized. And so I didn't have a single contraction while I was in. Yeah. Which is so interesting, because that's the whole reason why so many labours slow down and stop. Is because the adrenaline just goes bing as soon as you go through those doors. Yeah, and there were people everywhere. Like, they were so busy. There was crammed in this maternity ward. And the midwife behind the desk was frantic. Like, she just looked like an overburdened woman who was stretched. Yeah. And I'm saying to her, I don't need you to admit me. I just want to leave my bags here. we don't have a room for you to put them in. She's like this.
Wow.
And I'm going, okay, I can put them anywhere. Like, you don't have to worry. You know, I'm not here to, you know, ask something from you. So they ended up going in like this closety kind of room somewhere, like, that had supplies.
The room cupboard.
Yeah. And I walked out of there like kind of still shaking from the adrenaline, going, wow, that was the strangest experience. Can't say it was enjoyable.
No.
Don't really want to be there.
Yeah.
But here I was. And
Tough, right?
Yeah.
Potentially really tough.
Yeah. And here, so left there, and it was this beautiful winter's day. So, and the hospital actually backs onto a beautiful botanic gardens. So my husband, my doula, and I went for a walk in the botanic gardens. We left Bree sitting in the sunshine, and my husband and I had a wander for a while, and the contractions started up again, and they were about the same. They weren't getting any more intense. So I said, look, I'll go do some stairs and stuff and see if that kind of cranks it up, because often if it's baby's position that's stopping that head from applying to the cervix, you know, stairs, rocking the body, all of these sorts of things can kind of rock that head onto the cervix and crank things up.
Yeah.
So if you've looked at my birth photos that I posted on Facebook, you'll see a series that are in the car park. And so that was actually Saturday. So we were there, and I had brought, you know, my playlist and my headphones, and it was the only stairs that were around. And so I did some serious stairs for, I don't even know how long, and my husband waited up the top, and every time I get to the top, he goes, don't push it too hard. Like, don't go too hard and burn yourself out. And I was like, yeah, fair call. And so on my way back down, I noticed that the middle level of the car park was basically deserted aside from cars, and it was dark. And so I danced. I danced on my own in the car park.
So awesome.
Like a crazy lady. And there's a couple of people that were, you know, occasionally picked up their cars and would, you know, look at me like this. And my husband bobbed his head and goes, don't worry, they'll just think you're on drugs. Don't worry about it. I was like, fair call.
Yeah.
But I had the most glorious time. So just my body, my dance list, you know, coming from the hospital that felt so frantic, to be able to just come back into my body.
And how important is that, right? Because I think some women, I think, also wouldn't even know that that's what they need to do when they're put in that environment, because you would really get so out of your body in an experience like that.
And energised. Like, it's the power of music that you love too, isn't it? Like, I had done a blog post on Nourishing the Mother about building your playlist for birth. And one of those playlists was to have a rockin' playlist that makes you want to move your body and, you know, brings back memories. And, you know, that was the playlist. So by the time I don't even know how long I danced. I probably danced for like close to an hour. And, you know, Bree and Nick just sat on the stairs and chatted to each other. And I walked back. She goes, how are you doing? I went, I feel amazing. And I was like, wow, this is the power of you know, intention, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this is the power of really offering yourself a variety of opportunities during birth. And this is just one of those experiences.
And giving yourself permission to ground yourself too, you know, to know what you need and to go with where you're being pulled.
Yeah.
You know, because that was really listening to a deeper part of yourself and what you needed to do in that moment to get back into your body.
And busting out as well, because I did have this moment where I'm standing in the car park totally on my own going, but this is so inappropriate. Can I bust out here? I'm not sure. Yes. And just even when I saw someone walking to their car, really having that moment of saying to myself, don't shrink.
Yeah, you're okay here.
You're okay here, you know.
I love it.
It was just a really, really lovely experience for me, actually. Anyway, nothing got any stronger. It had just stayed where it was. And so we decided we'd all jump in a car together and we'd go grab some dinner. So we just went and grabbed some dinner at a groovy bar place that was just around the corner. And by the end of that, I was kind of like, you know, this is not going anywhere. Like, really, we've been out here now for 5 hours or something. It's not going anywhere. Yeah. If it was going somewhere, it would have by now. So I said, let's go back. I'm going to pick up my bags and, you know, we'll go home. We'll call it a night, blah, blah, blah. And Bree said, look, I'll come back and I'll do some acupressure massage on you and have a nap and see where you're at. And I went, all right. So we went back, picked up my bags, came home, The kids were all still up because it wasn't bedtime yet. So we just chatted with them for a bit. I went and had a nap. And by the time I was lying down in my nap, everything had completely fizzled out. Which, if you're not having contractions lying down, you're not having contractions.
Yeah.
And so I came back out and I was really disappointed. And I had these overwhelming feelings of guilt and shame.
About what?
Because of everything I'd orchestrated during the day to put everybody out. I mean, this is all part of my story on Sunday, but to put everybody out to be here for, in inverted commas, nothing. You know, no outcome again. So Bree and Mum left the kids. We put the kids to bed. I was pretty teary and I can't even remember now. So I think I was pretty much an emotional train wreck that night and went to bed, pretty much. I didn't have a single contraction during the night, so I was totally gone.
Yeah.
Totally gone. So by Sunday morning, when I got up, my husband took the 2 older kids out because they have sport, and I was home with my youngest. And I put the TV on for her, and I was sitting in my room just kind of sitting in myself, absolutely devastated, like just a weeping, wailing, rounded mess, like just, this is never happening. This child is literally never coming out of my body. And I know, even as I was saying those words to myself and knowing that was my thought process, going, I know how ridiculous that is, because of course it's coming out of my body.
Yeah.
But for some reason I couldn't let go of this concept of she's never coming out. And I can't tell you why she's not coming out, but she's not. Anyway, I really sat very deeply with myself, and this is part of the blog post, so I won't go into it all, but I ended up messaging my Blessing Way group in a moment of vulnerability and saying, here's where I'm at, and I just really need some energy and thoughts and vibes today, blah, 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 blah. And I got a beautiful flood of messages back, and probably 15 minutes later, a beautiful friend of mine rocked up on the door, and I knew it was going to be her the minute 15 minutes later after this message, I heard this knock. I opened the door and she just stood there with her arms wide open, and I pretty much just fell into them and wept, like just sobbed for probably the next 2 or 3 hours, and had the most profound, divine sent conversation with her about intervention. Now, she's not a birth worker, she's not a counsellor, she's not anything, but she literally walked in the door and, you know, sat down with me on my bed, and she said the first thing she said to me was, you know why you think you're a basket case and that you think you're the basket? Because you're still holding on to something. So what are you still carrying? And I just thought, man, like...
Is that channeled or what?
Yeah, seriously, that's what I was thinking. How can this possibly, I don't even know how you constructed this sentence, but it's like total genius. And in that moment I'm going, I know, it makes so much sense that I am, and I absolutely cannot connect to what that is. I don't know. I've done everything this week. I've done everything. I'm completely spent physically, emotionally, mentally. I've done everything in my toolkit that I know how to do. I've got nothing left. I don't even know what it is that's still holding me back. Anyway, she kind of pried a little bit further, and in the end connected some dots for me that what I was really saying was not so much that this baby's never coming out of me, but I'm terrified that someone's taking this baby out of me rather than me doing it on my own. And to really sit incredibly deeply with that, with this woman who was sitting in front of me, who's a mother of 4 and has herself had 3 Caesars. You know, she just burst into tears. I burst into tears. And, you know, I just think in that moment, I was her with her second when she'd had a natural with her first and was facing a Caesar with her second. So I was mirroring her. And at the same time, she's the teacher I needed for the wisdom to go to the next step. Like, so intricately profound.
It's just so amazing because that was really that one thing that you were really continuing to face and couldn't escape with the prospect of a hospital birth was the increased, risk in your perception of intervention.
Yeah.
And I guess even having to face the craziness on the Saturday of it all, was almost, on some level, I wonder, confirmation of just what you might be heading towards because of being in that house.
Yeah. And I was totally sitting with that as well, going, I wonder if, because this time I, rather stoically said, no, I can do it in a hospital, I'll be fine. And so I've put myself in this place of intervention. Have I, in essence, put myself in intervention?
Have I chosen it?
Yeah. So, there was a whole lot that came up with this conversation with her, which is in the blog post that I will post. So I'm not going to go into it here. But ultimately what came out of the other side of it was this huge body relief with her wisdom, even if I get there. And her parting words to me were, her advice to her back then, or to me, should I get there, is how do you reduce the sterility and increase the love that you want your baby born into? How do you do that? And she said, and the other thing I would say is it's going to be okay. You are going to be okay. And this one moment is a blip in the joy and love lifetime. And I just thought in that moment, I put so much emphasis on birth, but she's absolutely right. It's not the be-all and end-all of parenthood and of the lifetime I'll have with this soul. So if I can reduce the sterility and increase the love and create the space with the same feeling, it wouldn't actually matter what way that came.
Yeah. Which is big for you to get to, right?
It was really big.
There's so much resistance with all of your insight, wisdom, knowledge, experience that says that the way that you love, the natural way is the best. And so to be, she was the perfect person to take you so deep into the other side of that.
Oh, it was amazing. And I said to her straight after the birth, I texted her going, oh my God, I think you literally put me into labour. Like, I can't imagine that there could have been anything else that could have actually put me. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead. So she left, and thank God I journaled that because I absolutely could not connect really deeply to that processing that I had gone through in that. So I'm absolutely thrilled that I journaled it. Anyway, she left, and my husband had got home by then, so I had a bath and a nap, and I was just really sitting with, this is probably what this is. This is probably the birth that ends up in intervention, and that I've got to find the way to bring the love and create the wisdom and the learning that expands beyond me. Like this, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. This is what this is. So at that point in time, I'm like, well, I know this week I've got various forms of intervention booked in because I'm in the hospital system, right? So in my head, I'm going, okay, well, that's where I'm going. This is the birth of intervention, and I just have to own my voice, know that I've done absolutely everything that I can do before I make a choice, and bring the love. And I thought, I can do that. So, that's where I was at Sunday around lunchtime. I'm having a birth of intervention. And
did you reckon that you really felt like you'd sat with the gratitude of that?
Oh, yeah.
At that point?
Yeah. I was utterly sitting with the love. Not that it was easy. I hadn't just wiped away it's all love.
Yeah.
Because I could still utterly feel the pain and the struggle and the heartbreak that I would go through to make any of those choices. But at the same time, I knew that the space that I could create and hold with any of those choices would be love. And that the wisdom and the processing in getting to the wisdom would be love. So my husband had said, what do you want to do? And I said, look, I'm going to, have a bath, have a nap. And I said, you know what I really want? I want you to go and buy like a ridiculous amount of ice cream. And I want to make one of those ridiculous sundaes that's like on an enormous plate and put the fire on and just sit around and eat it.
I love it.
And he goes, okay. So he went and picked up all of the, wood or whatever for the fire and put the fire on and bought like 3 litres of ice cream and nuts and fudge. And so by the time I got out of the bath, I, got out one of my beautiful big vintage platters and, made like the most ornate, ridiculous, enormous 3-litre sundae with fudge and nuts and cream and all sorts of amazingness. And the 5 of us sat in front of the fire with a spoon and just laughed and giggled and ate the ice cream.
That is so
until
beautiful.
I'm pretty sure everyone was on the verge of vomiting. Everyone was walking around going, oh, yes. And by then, it started to get those soft waves of labour again. But in my head, I'm totally going, oh, here we are again. Here's another start and stop.
I think she was hanging around for the ice cream.
Yeah. So I totally wasn't paying any attention to them whatsoever. And, but so that was probably about 7 o'clock they started maybe. So we had the kids in bed by 8. And I said to my husband, I just really want to lie in bed with you and just be intimate. I really want to, kiss and touch and be really intimate. And look, did kind of have, Ina May Gaskin's kind of thing in my head. So her whole thing is birth and sexuality being two peas in a pod, really, and how one can complement the other.
Yeah.
So, and I'd never really, delved into that in a personal way. I totally get the theory behind it, but hadn't really allowed myself to do that before. So I was going into the bedroom thinking, I want this to be a gentle process and maybe we'll end up making love and, just really reconnect. And so, we were lying in bed together and each time I'd have a wave, I'd just ask him to, I really wanted this deep sort of open mouth kind of kiss and I would notice that the contractions started to build and then in between that, he'd be stroking me. I mean, I think I just had my undies on at this point and touch and it was a totally dark room. So we probably spent, we didn't leave the room, so it was about 8. We went into the room, I suppose. So by 9, the contractions had started to kick up a bit. But I was really enjoying it. It was actually this, I mean, if you're ever there and you feel like it, I would say try it because the experience of sensuality and being able to kind of rhythmically kiss and breathe in a contraction was actually magnificent.
Wow. Sounds beautiful.
Oh, it was actually really gorgeous.
And how keeping in line with your intention for this birth, which is all about love.
Yeah, that's true.
It's another, element of that.
Yeah.
Of carrying that through.
So, here we are, in this loved up, I can feel my body's, softening and opening with sensuality and sexuality and, I've had this incredible, blasted open day. And so within the next hour, they started to ramp up a bit. And I still thought in my head, it's probably still not going anywhere. Yeah. I'm not going to call anyone because I did that yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
And that fizzled out.
Yeah.
So we were lying there and then at about 10, so went to bed at 8, 9, things had kind of kicked in, 10. I was going, no, okay, I think, we probably need to let Mum and Bree know that's probably not going away. So just sent him a text message. And he went, yeah, all right, I'll just text them. And I think I had the next 2 contractions. I went, no, we're going to the hospital. I need you to call them. He went, oh, okay. They just all of a sudden kicked up. And I realised the difference. So I was expecting that my contractions would feel the same as they had with Lola, which was this kind of very, very gentle thing. Whereas this time I remembered them because they started to have the bite. That bite?
Yeah.
And I went, I forgot this. I forgot this. That's right. Okay.
It's when you know it's go time. It's when you know you're actually...
Yeah. But see, I never had it with my third.
Oh, right.
Totally didn't
And you would have
go
forgotten
there.
it, and because you've had that, that's your most recent birth. It's more it's in your head.
Yeah. So, but still totally manageable, like just still easy to kind of breathe through and, you know, just be in the rhythm of that kind of, you know, orgasmic wave, I suppose. Anyway, so we rang Bree and said, we'll meet you at the hospital because we're going to go. Mum sort of arrived by 10:30. So we pretty much said goodbye to her at the door and went, we'll see you later. Hopefully I'm not coming back again tonight, you know. Hopefully we'll see you later. And got in the car, and they were still, so now they're coming more frequently. So I wouldn't say they were hugely intense. They weren't difficult to deal with. They were just coming more frequently. And we got to the hospital, parked the car, got up the fucking stairs again, which was just the funniest experience. Because the better thing was it was nighttime. Yeah. So there's, hardly, there was still people that we had to walk in the door with, and people had to wait for me to have a contraction on the stairs before they could pass, and, you know, all this kind of weird stuff, but it was much quieter. Yeah. And that was really nice. So we got in, got to the desk, did the normal check-in stuff, chatty, and the midwife said to me, you know, well, you're going to have to come into the, you know, admittance room or whatever it is, observation room, so we can just do your admin, blah, 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 you know. So the admittance process probably goes for like half an hour, which is fine. So I'm in the room and she's so chatty, and she left the room and Nick goes, wow, she's really chatty. How you going with that? And I went, yeah, she's pretty chatty.
Shut the fuck up.
I know. I was thinking, I don't know how I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, and the other thing was, so we do all the normal admin, and then they have to do your blood pressure and your this and your that, and she's watching you in the contractions, and they didn't go away. And I remember looking at Nick and going, oh my God, I've done this. You know what? I've done this. I've got to hospital. I'm in the room and they haven't gone away. I'm like doing this, you know, like high-fiving myself in that moment going, I feel like I'm over my first hurdle. Here I am, you know, in hospital and I'm okay. And this midwife, and look, she was really lovely. She's part of the team care, and she said to me, she's older, she said, look, I do have to do an internal to know whether it's early and maybe your baby's posterior, and that's why your contractions, because I must have been looking like I was cruising with them in some sense, because I'm not making a lot of noise. There's no, like, I'm just breathing, and, you know, it's rhythmic, and for me it's still reasonably enjoyable. For me it still has an edge of, if you've ever had a cervical orgasm, there's kind of that almost bitey edge to a cervical orgasm. And so part of the experience of labour for me feels like that. So I'm still really enjoying it, and it feels nice. I get to sway my hips, and I get to not talk to you for, you know,
you get the excuse not
and my husband comes in beautifully and close to me. Like it's a really, I still am really enjoying this process, even though in between now we're chatting and you know, whatever. Anyway, so she said, I need to do an internal. Now I knew this at hospital required 4 centimetres to admit you into a room. Yeah. And so below 4 centimetres, they're going to send you home. Depending on which midwife I came across, depended on whether they said, yes, we would insist on you having an internal, or no, an internal is completely your choice, and we use other forms of looking at whether you're in labour, which is what I've said to clients before. You don't have to have an internal if you don't want one. There's loads of other ways to tell you're in labour. So here I was, and she's saying, look, I really do need to do an internal. And in my head, part of my doula hat's going, you don't have to do that. Like, tell her to fuck off. And then the other part of my head's going, you know what? I just don't really care. I think I'd come so far on this, I'm having an interventionist birth.
Yeah, wow.
And I'm here in the hospital doing it. And if all she needs is to know that this is legitimately labour, not a woman who's come in too early. Yeah. And I get to go into my room and have time, because if I say no to that and she's waiting for other signs of it ramping up, I have less time in the room. For me, being a 4th-time mum and a fast labourer. And so I was like, no, I self-checked in, and I went, I'm okay with it. You know, it's completely counter opposite to where I've sat with internals previously, but I'm actually really okay with it. if it's done in a respectful way, because that's the part I don't like about the way that women and their sacred spaces are treated during birth, is that you could, it's a public traffic zone. Like, it's not. It is a place of reverence, and, there is so much that's done to women that I don't think is okay. So I looked at this midwife and I said to her, I understand that. I understand that you need 4 centimetres to be able to admit me. Is that correct? She said, yes. I said, okay. What I need you to understand is that I have never, ever, in all of my births, had an internal. And she looked at me, which must be pretty weird, right, for a woman who's had 3 babies.
Yeah.
And I said to her, so I'm willing to do this with you, but what I need from you first is for you to walk me through verbally the entire process of what you're doing and how you're going to do it. And then before you do anything, I need you to talk to me about it. And she went, no worries.
Great.
And I went, okay. And so she did that. She talked to me beautifully about what she would do and how gentle she would be and all of the rest of it. She gave me as much time as I needed. She, we're up on the table and she's like, if you get a contraction, I'm not going to go anywhere near you. We'll just turn on your side, blah, blah, blah. And she was incredibly gentle, so gentle and so soft and gentle and reverent that I did feel like, as much as this sounds weird, that she was genuinely honouring my sacred space.
Oh, how awesome is that?
And honestly, and I've heard internals can be horrendous. And again, this is going to sound hideous. I can't believe I'm saying this on a podcast. But she was so gentle and it was such a lovely experience that it was actually lovely.
It actually felt good.
It actually felt nice. Yeah.
Cool.
As opposed to feeling violated.
Yeah.
It actually just felt respectful and gentle. And that was what I needed. And that was then what she needed. She went, great, you're 3 to 4 centimetres. In my head I'm going, 3 to 4? All right. She goes, but that's enough to get you in. So let's get you in a room. And I went, great. Let's do that. So now it's like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And she takes me down. Oh, no. Then we had to have the water discussion. So while we're in the, when she said, okay, we can admit you, I said, great. Can we fill up the bath? Because I know the bath takes like an hour to fill up.
Yeah.
So if you want an opportunity to have a water birth, it's got to be free. You've got to have a midwife trained in it. You've got to have enough time to fill it up. And now I know you have to have a room that's adjoining the bath. So there's only 2 rooms that adjoin the bath. They can't admit you into a room down the hall and still have a water birth because if there's an emergency, there's no room to transfer you into. So she said, look, I don't think either of those rooms are free. I don't think that's a possibility. But hang on, let me check. So she goes and checks, blah, blah, blah. She comes back, she goes, no, it's all right. One of the rooms is free, so we can do that. I'll go start that right now. And I went, great. So she's filling up the bath and we walked into the room and Bree had got there by then and it was just fabulous because my well-resourced, beautiful labour team instantly got into decorating mode because I'd packed a bag of, things. And it was perfection. The fairy lights went on everywhere. Bree and Nick was sticking up my beautiful messages and personalised signs from my, blessing me, which were just the most excruciating, divine, heart-opening explosion thing to read, this beautiful message from my labour from every single woman that was there. Like, it was just like, and they put them all over the walls. They hung up my flags and my blessing totems, put my music on. I changed into my blessing way outfit, and we had our space, right? Breeze
So
put the room spray stuff on, and I've got my music, have my beautiful husband, and I'm still going, I'm in a fucking hospital room and I'm doing it. this is amazing. And look how great this is. I'm like this.
So good.
And they started to ramp up and they got bitier. And again, I was going, wow, you know, I'd forgotten this bitiness. And at the same time in my head going, just be here because this is it. This is the last time ever you will be here. Ever. Just be here. And so I got to just do that and sway my hips and move my body and, you know, be touched beautifully by my doula and space held and be touched beautifully by my husband and space held. And the chatty midwife went beautifully silent and hung in the corner, like just observing it all. So she just obviously knew, right? Just
She knew you
beautiful.
had this. Yeah.
And they got stronger. And again, I'd forgotten that. And they started to get this really intense edge to them, which I had forgotten and really had to really seriously focus on. And so it was at that point I was kind of hanging off my husband and in a contraction, really working on breathing with them. And what I noticed was that when they would reach the crescendo at the top, all I could do was rub my forehead into his like nuzzle into his neck. And I remember at one point kind of having this out-of-body experience as I'm doing it because it was the only thing that felt really good as I'm breathing with them, going, I've told clients about this before, this head nuzzling thing, because women do it when the baby's doing it. The baby kind of nuzzles the cervix. And as the baby's kind of nuzzling the head and the cervix, women almost instinctually start doing that action themselves and they're looking for something to nuzzle against. Yeah, and so isn't it? And I just had this out-of-body experience going, wow, it's amazing, you know. And at the same time, enjoying the sensation of it. Like, it was intense, but there's this part of it that still just feels so satisfying for me. And to ride that wave and feel my husband's hands and his, you know, beautiful, huge body and presence. And it was just like gorgeous, beautiful. Anyway, the midwife then all of a sudden comes over to me and she goes, "The bath's ready." And I went, "Really? Already?" She goes, "Yeah." And I went, "Oh." And in my head I'm going, I don't know if I'm ready to get in the bath. Like, I haven't been here very long, and in my head I've still got 3 to 4 centimetres.
Yeah.
And she's going, "Well, whatever you want to do," you know, like this. And I have one more contraction here and then I'll go. And she went, "Okay." So, and in my head I'm thinking, I just need to check if my contractions are okay for me to leave this room, to feel like if I get in the bath, it's not too early.
Yeah.
And I had a contraction that was pretty intense, and I went, "No, I'm good. Let's go." It's okay.
We're good.
And so I turned around to her and I went, "Yeah, let's go to the bath." And so Brie bought her candles. She had like the, you know, flick on, flick off candle things.
Yeah.
And Brie and Nick brought some of my messages and my music and some fairy lights and came into the bathroom. It's beautiful. I mean, the bathroom's beautiful, right? It's this dark, warm, white tiled space that's filled with candles and light and my music. It was actually beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And so I got in the water, and again, as a doula, I've seen so many women get in water and heard so many stories, and they go, "Oh, that feels so good." But because I'd never done it, I never got it. But I got in the water and I literally went, "Oh my God." I was like this, looking at Brie going, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And I nearly went, "No one told me how good this was." And then I'm like, "No, I've heard it lots. I've heard it lots. It's really this good." So if you have never experienced it, even thinking about it, do it. It's amazing, is all I can say to you. I'm pretty sure I spent like about a minute ranting to Brie. This is so good. Like, whoa. And she's giggling. She's sitting in front of me just giggling, going, yeah, I know. Anyway, and it was just the most amazing feeling of weightlessness and warmth, and to not have to consider where my body is positioned or how I'm holding it or how I'm contracting my muscles. I could literally just let it all go because the water held me. And then my husband just came and sat next to the bath, and we were just chatting for a bit, and he would, hold my hand and stroke me and offer me drinks or whatever. And look, it wasn't very long. I was in the bath for 10 minutes before she was born.
Wow.
Yeah, so we only just made it. So I had one contraction in there and thought, whoa, that's kind of pushy. There's a lot of feeling of that real kind of to it. But in my head, I'm still going 3 to 4 centimeters, which is fucking ridiculous. And I wish someone had have said to me, but maybe they didn't know either. I don't know. It's hard to know, when you're inside your body. So that's, and just allowing my body just the space to, like, my knees to spread wide in this bath and to just kind of roll with it in a breath felt really amazing, because normally if you're in gravity, you're still conscious of how you're holding or moving your body or your muscles. And I got to really, again, press my forehead against his forehead. I remember asking him, I need your head here. And he put it there, but then he started to kind of move it backwards. And I'm like, no, more pressure. Just that feeling of having my forehead pressed against his. And again, that nuzzling thing just felt so good. And still then I could breathe, even though they were... It's a different feeling that when you move from that first stage to second stage, isn't it? When it moves from the bitiness to more of an expansive feeling.
It's almost like a stretching or
just a pressure, but that feels expansive. But I still didn't think in my head that I could possibly be there, because we're talking, so it's now midnight and I've only got in my room at 11, so only an hour earlier. And anyway, and then in between, chatting again, it was, just lovely and gentle in the water and stroking again, had still no lights on. And then the next contraction, I remember taking this, riding with this wave, and then all of a sudden there was this huge pop, and I remember mid-contraction going, oh, okay, that was my waters, and this feeling of this gush. And the midwife going, oh, good, I was waiting for that, is what I heard in my head. And then what I wasn't prepared for, and that was the shock, was the waters broke, and vroom, out with the waters came her head.
wow.
And it flew, and I could feel it. I could feel it kind of flying through my pelvis, and she kind of hit my perineum. And I went, whoa. There's a head. Like, I've got a head in my hand. And the midwife's going, it's okay, that's okay. And she was right there, which was great. And poor Brie, because no one knew it was going to happen that quickly. Poor Brie was in between battery changes.
Oh, no.
And she's going, oh my God. And he goes, oh, really? And so all you could hear is that. And the midwife was beautiful, because she could obviously hear I was shocked. And so she came in super close, and I had my hand on her head, and as she was just easing out, and she just said, it's just her head. And the best thing she could have said to me was, do you want to look? Do you want to look and see? And it was the best thing she could have said, because I was so, eyes closed, stuck in my body in the moment. And what I wanted to be was present to her birth.
Yeah.
And just her saying that made me go, yeah, I do. And I opened my eyes, and she had the mirror there, and there, the midwife was right there, and she's going, it's just her head, you're not going to see much, it's really dark. And that's what I really appreciated as well, because most water births in the dark like that, the midwives still have the torch on and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And she totally didn't. This is all still in the dark. And
Isn't
she's
that beautiful?
so respectful. I think she'd really read my birth plan and kind of got me and just talked to me. And I just felt her head slowly ease out. And then that as that contraction leaves and her head actually comes out, that feeling of intense pressure kind of leaves. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it.
Wow.
This is it. This is her birth. And the midwife said, now the next contraction, her body's probably going to come out. So I just need you to move back in the bath a little bit, because I was like right up on the edge.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, okay. So I moved a knee. And as soon as I moved a knee, I felt a shoulder come out. And then the next contraction started almost straight away. And I got to see her body just come out into the water. And the midwife just going, take your baby. And I just got to pick her up out of the water and bring her straight up to my chest and do it all on my own.
So beautiful.
Like, I just went, oh my gosh, you're here. And I can't speak now. And it was that moment where I just looked at her, and the second I looked at her, I went, I can't believe for a second I thought about not having you. I can't believe it. Like, perfect, just so perfect. And I just can't. It was like, I can't believe it. And so it was so beautiful. And the midwife then just took the cord off her neck. And my beautiful little daughter, who was born into the water, just completely relaxed. She didn't even cry. She kind of like went, ah. And then I had to blow on her face to make sure she was still kind of like, is she alive?
Yeah.
Because she'd opened like this flower in my hands and in the water, like just, you can kind of see in a couple of the photos, she just like opened like this blossoming flower and was just lying in the water, just open, looking up at, Nick and I, and it was the most exquisite thing. And I thought, this is it, and then all of a sudden I kind of snapped to, and I looked at Brett and I went, I fucking did it. I've had a water bath. I've like had a water bath. I've had a water bath. Yeah, like, this is amazing. And I've totally done it all on my own. Like, nobody has helped me. Nobody's touched my body or my baby. I did this all on my own, and it's amazing. Like, just the most incredible sensations, and everybody knows those moments.
What an
right?
incredibly healing birth.
Yes, that's and she's so perfect and so divine, and all I could think was, you waited for me, right? Like, all the fucking time that I spent going, I can't do this, or you shouldn't be here, or all of that shit that she would have heard and felt. And as I raged and went to crazy town over a series of evolutions in 9 months, she fucking just waited. And I just thought, here you are, so many lessons.
Yeah.
So in this profound, time and day, and it was the day of the lunar eclipse in Aquarius, the water bearer, all about love and, moving forwards. And here you are, this super calm, open, beautiful soul who just waited. I just thought, like, that's love, right?
Oh my God, it's just so, there's not even words, really. Like, anyone who's listened to the podcast for the last 9 months, like, I'm kind of speechless.
It just blows my mind.
What you have brought here, it's just incredible. What she has taught you before she's even spent a day.
I
a couple
know.
of days.
I know. And here she is just, oh, man. And I look at those photos now that Brie took, and that's what it takes me back to. It just takes me back to so many variations of love and just that constant pondering or quest of mine that I have in my head about what is love. Because love is so much about sacrifice and pain as much as it's about this beauty and rapture. And here it was, all wrapped up in this one little soul. And that second that I saw it, it was like, all that shit I was carrying just disappeared. And I thought, how fleeting and ridiculous. This is nothing but perfection.
But yet you needed it all.
Yeah, I did. It wouldn't be what it was had I not gone through it.
Maybe she did too.
Yeah.
I think about it as a co-creation.
Yeah.
I'm just so honouring you sharing that. And, the other women listening right now who are, like, blubbering like both of us are.
I don't know. I mean, I hope the birth stories, they always touch me, so I hope that they touch you in some way as well. But, really, I don't know, I'm in that space now where I'm like, if you have a question about another baby, my answer right now is just do it. Like, you would never regret it. And it's just, I think we worry about so much stupid shit.
Yeah.
So much stupid shit.
That's true.
And yet, here, here's this soul who is exquisite and comes with so many lessons and so much love. And I'm just, again, blown open by it. And by birth.
Again.
And I had a completely physiological third stage. So, again, beautiful midwife, had to get out of the bath with placenta, but that's fine. And again, she left all of the lights off in the room. She didn't put us in because she's like, no, you don't need any lights on. So I had no intervention for a third stage. I had no stitches, no anything, like nothing. And this beautiful, beautiful baby in this completely intervention-free hospital birth. I almost pinched myself.
It's just incredible.
It's
really
actually amazing. So it can be done.
It can be done.
It can be done, and it was just really beautiful. And I'm so grateful I had just enough time to do everything I wanted to do. Just enough time to set up my room and be in that space. And just enough time to set up the bathroom and be in that space.
Yeah.
And that I got to completely bring my baby into this world on my own and meet her on my own, before anybody else did. It was just, that's rapture, right?
Yeah.
So much gratitude almost for me sometimes has that painful edge to it because your heart aches so much.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like rapture. And that's for me what that birth is. And she's just so gorgeous, and I'm so in love. And it's great. Doesn't mean it's not hard, right? Because we're still doing newborn shit and, awake all night and blah, blah, blah. But she's so fucking perfect and so worth it. And I just am so grateful.
And, I really want to add, you're doing the amount of incredible work that you did to get yourself ready as you could for this birth.
Thanks, because I fucking did everything I could do.
You really did,
I was
and
exhausted.
That you set yourself up to have an incredible birth. And just as you always say, there's no magic birth fairy.
No.
And, you had to look at some dark stuff.
I really did.
To get there, and this is the beauty on the other side of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I want other women to understand that too. It is seductive, just as you said, to kind of check out if you want to.
Yeah, because I could have.
You really could have.
And then I wonder what I would have missed.
Yeah.
so much perfection and synchronicity
Yeah.
and love, right? My intention for this birth was love, and I found love in so many different ways and in so many different places in this one experience. And as we got closer to birth, the more heightened those experiences became. The more intensively I was called to walk through those coals of fire, right?
Yeah.
And I'm immensely grateful that I had that conversation with my friend in the morning and really got to deeply connect with birth in another way and open myself up and really explore even deeper my relationship and intimacy in birth. And to be able to then come full circle to, I guess, doing what I say is possible and never having done it myself, which was a completely intervention-free natural hospital birth that was just as full of love and just as amazing as any home birth. You know, to be able to really walk that walk for myself was super intense and super possible.
Yeah. Just
So, that's my, short but quick birth story.
Wow. I just want to leave our listeners, I think, with that today, because I feel like that there's so much for people to contemplate in that and sit with and revere, and, the power of a woman and birth and love and connection and healing.
Yeah.
So much in that.
So much. And then I have to say, to be able to have Bree there, who just holds space like nobody's business, like just incredibly masterful at holding space and being in space. And to be able to have such a direct connection to those wild and precious moments in photographic form. I'm absolutely devo. I didn't do it with my other births.
There's something so incredible about birth photography.
Oh my God. And I look at those images now and I'm taken straight back there. And I'm so grateful for them because, again, you just forget. And the further you get from it, the more you forget. And to have those birth images and capture that story so perfectly, I'm just immensely grateful to Bree. So, Bree, if you ever do listen to this, you're a marvel. And I absolutely bow at your feet for the work that you do in this world.
So do I.
Yeah. And if you have even remotely considered birth photography again, I would say do it.
Do it. Absolutely do it.
Because you will never regret it. And she, you think she's never going to be in your way, in your space. I don't think I even really noticed her taking photos. She just held this beautiful energy that kind of entered and left my space as needed. Just incredible. And here I have these images that bring me to tears.
Such a gift.
Such a gift. So, we will put the links in for Bree. So she's Bree Downs, birth photographer and doula in Melbourne. She does she-birth workshops as well. We'll put her links in. To connect with us is nourishingthemother.com.au, and if you haven't seen my birth story images, they are up on our Facebook page, so you can have a look on there and get inspired or connect back to your experiences in some sort of profound way, I hope. Instagram and Facebook, we're nourishingthemother.com.au. What else? If you get 5 seconds, we would love a review on Facebook or a rating on iTunes. If you can work that system out,
that'd be awesome.
It'd be great. Just keeps us going, really, and we deeply appreciate every time you listen and tune in, and every time we get feedback or someone saying, "Oh, that really touched me," we go, "Oh, yes, that's the work in the world."
Someone said the other day, better than therapy. I was like, oh, wow, bam, that's gorgeous.
That's amazing.
Yeah, which is really nice.
And that's the power of women, right? And it's the power of being together and vulnerability, of shared experience. And that's really what we hope we bring here for you, and that you're then able to, bring back to us.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for listening to my birth story.
Thank you for sharing it, Jules.
No, thanks. Yeah. And to connect with you, Bridget.
SuburbanSandcastles.com.
And you? thepleasurenutritionist.com. And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/The Wellness Couch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.